fortunate enough to be able to spend an awful lot of time with this next gentleman, probably one of the most brilliant dental managers in the world. Knows more, has learned more, applies more, phenomenally successful practices, and just wonderful, wonderful pioneer, really, in a lot of the things. No one else has done it. Maybe one of the most important components of that is take a look at who he's got here. A lot of his staff, big smiles on his face, right? And he's got his mom and dad here as well, which I'm so proud you guys are here and thankful. And just honored to be able to work alongside of this gentleman for so many years, and it's doing pretty darn good, and leads a lot of us to a lot of new ideas and new approaches, all statistically based, all data driven, and so forth. So, Justin, you want to come up? Justin Koch. I wish more guys were here. Phenomenal.
Can you guys hear me okay? We good? John, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, so can I get this up here? Thank you. So my name's Justin Koch. I live in San Antonio. I'm the founder and CEO of 7-to-7 Dental and Orthodontics. Been doing this for about 11 years now. I've been with John and Chrisad for since 2010. Started our practice as 7-to-7 Dental and Orthodontics, and the day I met those guys, I was like, we're going to be a good fit, because they were preaching all the things that I was doing, and they just led me to some better decisions as we were moving forward. But the extended model was really what we started our practice as. I have one business partner, Dr. Tiffany Winburn. She's here right now, and I'd like to say thank you to all my staff that's here right now, because they're going to be the ones that you guys stand up real quick, please. So these are really great resources. As I'm talking later today, if you guys have any questions, these are the people that make it all happen day in and day out, the things that I'm going to be talking about. When I say I or we, it means them. It's not me. These guys are the ones that do it day in and day out. But what I'm going to be talking about today is easy. It's not going to be easy talk. It's going to be about easy. So I like this quote from Matthew Dixon. He wrote a book called The Effortless Experience. And so you need to give your customers fewer reasons to be disloyal. And the best way to make that happen is to reduce customer effort. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory. A lot of what John was talking about earlier is access to your practice, ease of use, obstacles out of the way. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So this is really what today's environment is. It's for our patients. It's not easy for us. So don't think that I'm going to tell you how this is easy, how we make it easy for our patients to be in our practice long term. So easy really is the new expected. So what exactly does that mean, easy? This is just the basic definition of it. Achieved without great effort, presenting few difficulties, and then uncomplicated, not difficult, undemanding, unexacting, unchallenging. All of these things that we tend to do the exact opposite with our patients. And then what's an expectation? So an expectation is basically what somebody thinks that they're going to receive when they do something. So it's a strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. And a lot of times this quote is what happens when they come into our office. And that's not what we're looking for. So let's look real quick of what an actual patient expectation is. And then we'll talk a little bit about what are not expectations of the people that walk through our door. Because here's what I think happens an awful lot. Because I talk to practices all over the country. This isn't just what's happening in my organization. I do talk to practices all over the country. And expectations, or what we think our patients' expectations are typically set by the dentists thinking what the patient wants. And it usually tends to be more clinical-centric instead of patient. So patient expects the good dentist to be good. So can I have all my good dentists stand up? All the bad ones just stay down. Just the good ones stand up. Okay, so what I'm gonna, the point here is that all of you are bad because nobody stood up. Is that right? Everyone's bad. So seriously, stand up for me real quick. If you're a good dentist, stand up for me real quick. Okay, so let's clap for all of our good dentists. Probably great dentists. Okay, so I bet there's not one person in this room that thinks they're a bad dentist. And I'm pretty sure that most of the dentists throughout the country don't think they're bad dentists. They might be. There's a lot of them, but they don't think that they are. And so the idea that better dentists or being a better dentist is all that you need to do. So good dentist is an expectation. That's just what it is. You have a practice, you must be a good dentist. You're in practice, you must be a good dentist. So the next one is they take my insurance. Not necessarily in network, but they take my insurance and they work well with it. Then convenient. So convenient is kind of a tricky one. A lot of people might think they're convenient. I see this on direct mail pieces that I get in my house for other practices a lot. And it says open Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5 for anybody? Your convenience. I don't know whose convenience that is. It's the doctor's convenience. So we've got to be convenient. And convenient is not what's convenient to us. It's what's convenient to our consumer, which is our patient. And then follow up and follow through. This is probably the biggest train wreck in most practices. Follow up, and it's like, how is that so hard? But it is. How many of you use 3M, the god-awful piece of paper with the stick at the top? Sticky notes? That's what I think they're called. Does everybody have like cases and cases of that crap in your office? Anybody not use sticky notes? I hate them. I banned them in my organization about 10 years ago, and they keep popping up. I have no idea how they got there. I think I actually called Staples and said, please don't let any of my people order this crap anymore. And they just keep coming. But this is our follow-up system in most practices. So it's a sticky note that falls off the screen into the trash can, gets thrown away. So follow up and follow through. That is an expectation of our patients. If things didn't go well, if they have a question about something, they tend to have to call our practice numerous times just to get an answer. They have to tell their story over and over again. Very frustrating. So follow up and follow through. Accessible, you have to have availability quick. They're calling you to get into your practice now, not 6 weeks from now, not 2 weeks from now. They want to come in now. I can't tell you how many patients we get on a regular basis for an emergency because their dentist couldn't see them for 7 days. Anyone had a toothache? Did you let it sit around for 7 days? You want to go somewhere, you want to get it taken care of. Their own dentist couldn't see them for 7 days. So accessibility to your patients and hopefully to other practices' patients. Timely. So this also seems to be one that is, it really, healthcare is really bad at this. So don't be your primary care physician's office. How awful is that when you go in for your 9 o'clock appointment and at 10:30 you're still sitting in their lobby or waiting room, if you will? So timely. Get your patients back when they want to be at their appointment time and make sure their appointment is in a timely fashion. So courteous, obviously everyone knows what that means, but not everybody practices it. Personal, knowledgeable. Everyone in your practice needs to have the basic level of knowledge because they expect everyone in your office knows everything about everything dental related. Whether it be their insurance, whether it be the procedure, everything. And I'm not saying that you have to know everything, but the team has to be relatively knowledgeable about just about anything that you're going to be doing for that patient. Affordable, that does not mean cheap. Affordable is options for your patients. You take their insurance, you've got options for their payment. Clean is probably the number one thing. They can tell real quick if they don't want to be in your practice if it's not clean. So clear communication, caring, and quick problem resolution. So these are real patient expectations. These are the things that our patients come into our office. These are the things that they truly expect. These are things that they do not expect. They don't expect an office tour. So I don't know if any of you guys do office tours. But if you do, I'm sorry. I think that is the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard in my life. So imagine if you called for an Uber And the driver gets there and goes, hold on. I know you're going to want to see the engine of the vehicle. And let me show you the navigation system and the stereo. It's got 11 speakers. Harman Kardon. Look at this. This is Italian leather. It's like, can you just take me to point B? We're at A, I need to get to B. That's why I called you. That is an office tour. Do you think any patient gives a damn what your chair looks like? Can I sit in it? That's what they care about. They don't care about your office. You know who cares about your office? You do. So tour it yourself. Okay, so lasers, CAD/CAM mills, please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying don't have this stuff in your office, because this is very impactful for a lot of you. A lot of you guys like the mills, and the lasers are fantastic. We got several of them in my organization. But you know what I don't do? Tell my patients about them. Because that's about like saying, hey, you know what? I'd really like to show you this new elevator that I just got. Or this forcep. Would you like to see that? Look, it's got a golden tip on it right here on the handle. That's basic. It's because you spend a lot of money on it doesn't mean they care. So they don't care about your lasers. They don't care about your CAD/CAM mills. They don't care how much you spend on your equipment. They don't care about hot towels. John talked about this. They don't care about your cookies. And this one right here, I've seen this more and more frequently lately. Is it a dental practice or is it a bar? Cocktails. So I got to get them nice and lubed up before I start working on them. The drunker they are, the quicker they are to say yes. So cocktails before and after the appointment, silly. Fully stocked coffee and beverage bar. I bet 75% of you have something like that in your lobby. You know what that tells your patient? Get ready to wait. You can have all the coffee you want. Paraffin wax, aromatherapy. In fact, any single thing that is not in that expectation list is something that your patient does not care about. So now that we know that, what do? We make everything about the doctor. And I say we, this is typically what I see, is we make everything about the doctor. We limit our hours of access because, well, we've got lots of capacity and hygiene. You know, see right here between 11 o'clock and 4, there's all this, so I don't need to add anything because we've got all this. So limiting hours of access. You guys hear the term bookending your schedule? You know what the bookend's for? A better schedule for your doctor. It's not a better schedule for your patients. So then you've got this black hole of office policies. How many of your new patient paperwork is less than 2 pages? I know this office is less than 2 pages. How many of you have about 2 paragraphs about your financial policy? You know who cares about that financial policy? Not a damn person. Because if they're going to pay you, they're going to pay you. If they're not, they're not. You don't need to tell them in a book that they have to. So limit it. You know, one of the most frustrating things patients coming into the office is paperwork. The dreaded paperwork. So why don't we make it more difficult for them? Make it bigger and stack. And I need 17 signatures and 15. I mean, it's not a mortgage. You're trying to do something for them. So then we turn our lobbies into waiting rooms, and that's where the coffee and beverage bars are. It's a waste of money, honestly. If you allow your patients to be there long enough to pour a cup of coffee, you didn't do them a very good service. And then we speak in tongues. So this is really big to me. This is one of my biggest things that I work with my organization on is our communication. Because when I say we speak in tongues, I'm not just talking dental vernacular that our patients don't understand, like caries and leaking and all this other stuff. I'm talking about we use phrases like, that's our policy. So we speak in tongues because they don't care about our policies. Our policies are for us, not for them. And then, you know, we break our promises, and that's the follow through. So if somebody calls and they say, hey, look, I need to talk to somebody about my bill, or I got this insurance statement, and the person on the other end of the phone doesn't understand what it means, they go, well, I'll have Julie, she's our insurance person, call you back first thing. Never. And then that patient calls back and says, yeah, I was waiting on a phone call from Julie. Oh, Julie doesn't work here anymore. What did you need? So then we make our patients feel like an insurance transaction. So if that doesn't make sense, it's when we start the conversation off of, what's your insurance? Do you have insurance? Can I have your insurance? Your insurance doesn't cover that. Or anything that makes the patient feel less important than their insurance is turning them into an insurance transaction. And then we put up every possible roadblock imaginable. But then we go to John and we're like, hey, John, I need more patients. I'm not busy enough. And then so John's like, yeah, I can give you a better life. We can get more patients, blah, blah, blah. He shovels them into your office. And then you're like, this direct mail doesn't work. This Chrisad thing doesn't work because you block them from your practice with all of this nonsense that we're talking about. And then we scratch our heads wondering why they're not coming back or coming in at all. So the reality of it is, now that we know what the expectation is, this is actually what we should do. So that is, oh shoot. How do I go back? There we go. So the ones on the right, those were the ones that we just talked about. So we're going to move every roadblock, we're going to move that up to the top. We're going to minimize every possible obstacle to entry. We're going to change from being doctor or provider-centric to being patient-centric. That means it's not about what the doctor wants. It's about what the patient wants. And until we understand that, we're always going to be struggling in our practices to be successful. Especially now. It's even more so. Back in the day, it was about the doctor. And they had long-lasting relationships with their patients just because that's how it worked. It was a family affair. My mom went here, and my mom's mom went here. Now I go here, and I'm going to go until that guy is literally dead working in my mouth, because that's how it worked. It's not like that anymore. Our patients are very, very fickle, and they will leave you for anything. So now we open up hours to access. Hours to access are patient-centric times. When people are at work, that is not a patient-centric time. Patient-centric time is when they do not have to make effort to ask their boss, is it okay if I go to the dentist? They've got plenty of other places that are doctor-centric to worry about. We need to be one less. And then policies are internal. So I said this black hole of policies earlier, right? So policies are for you and your team. They are not for your patients. Obviously, you have to have policies and procedures and best practices so that you can get through your day. But policies and procedures are built and designed for 90% of what happens, and 10% you just figure it out. But you do not use policy with your patients. It's not for, well, our policy is, you may as well just tell them to go F off, because that's what that means. I don't have anything more intelligent to say to you, and this is how I'm going to shut you up. It's my policy to not do that. It's my policy to not talk to you. I banned that word from my organization, by the way. Every year I ban a word or a phrase, and this year it was policy. We can't say that in front of our patients, because my thing is, if you don't have anything better to say than policy, just don't say anything at all. So then we've got wait times. This is what we just talked about this. Wait times should be almost eliminated from your organization. If you schedule a patient and you're unable to attend to them at their appointed time, you either don't know how to schedule or you do not have enough team members to manage it. And one of those two things needs to be resolved. You need to learn how to schedule better so that you can effectively manage your patient's expectation of coming in. Why do we have appointments if we're not going to keep them? You know, it's, we're going to get you an appointment-ish. That's what we should call them. If we're not going to stick to them, an appointment-ish. And I understand that we have emergencies that happen, but those are rare occasions where it shouldn't be our norm. That should be the exception to your rule. That should be your 10% or less that actually happens. And then we communicate with our patients like we want them there. And that's what I'm talking about. We speak to them in tongues. We talk to our patients so many times in a way that I can't believe they would ever come back. We need to talk to them like they're our friends, like they're our family members, not like they're an insurance policy. And then, we've got to follow up and follow through. That's the lies that we do to our patients. We lie to them, and we don't follow up when we tell them we're going to. And we never transactionalize our patients. And that's from insurance all the way down to paying the bill. When you make the dentistry about the transaction before you make it about the patient's care, you just transactionalized your patient, and they will go somewhere else every single time. And then pre-appoint every single patient every single time. And I get asked this question all the time, even by my own team who knows exactly how to do this, but they say, well, what if the patient doesn't want to? The problem is they asked the patient if they wanted to. And I explained it to one of my hygiene assistants the other day. She goes, I get this a lot. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, when you greet a patient in the lobby to bring them back, do you say, would you like to get out of your chair and follow me to the back? No. You walk out there, you shake their hand, you say your name and what you're going to be doing for them. And then if it's a new patient, our first thing we do is we take a pano. Do you stop and say, Mrs. Jones, would you like to take a panoramic x-ray? No. You take them into the room, set them up, and then with bite wings, would you like me to take some additional x-rays of your mouth? No, you take the x-rays. So why do we make that a question? Because it's part of their care, that pre-appointment, getting them back in your office. It's part of the care, so why do we ask that question? We just say, Mrs. Jones, while you're here, I'm going to schedule your very important 6-month cleaning for you. What time do you get off work? Not what time would you like to come in? Because if they know what they're doing in 6 months, wow. And they don't know what's going on in their job because they're going to tell you, oh, 5 o'clock's fine. Do you think anybody can make it to your office in like 35 seconds from their job? Because most people that 8 to 5, the American way, they ain't getting to your office about 5 o'clock. And in their head, they're going, I'll just cut out a little early. No one will mind. But they don't know what they're doing at work 6 months from now. So the best time to schedule somebody is when they're not at work. And the people that say they have a flexible schedule have the least flexible schedules. Just remember that. And so we talk about easy. So how do we make it easy? So we're going to start with the phones. So I think everybody thinks they know what that means, but the reality of it is this can be a stopping point for so many patients. You know which patient is never going to schedule in your office? The phone call that didn't get answered. So the very first thing that you need to do is answer the phones. That's number one. If you don't have enough phone lines and you don't want to spend another $36 on another one, wow. Because you just lost $750 for that patient you didn't schedule. And then $750 for the next one, and $750 more for the next one, possibly their whole family, because you don't want to spend $36 a month on another POTS line. That's plain old telephone service for those of you not in the telecom industry. And then on the phones, we do not, so this kind of goes back to the insurance transaction. So when a patient goes, yes, I'd like to schedule a cleaning. You go, what insurance do you have? You know what you just did to that patient? You made them an insurance policy. You know what you don't want to do for your patients? Make them an insurance policy because they're patients and we need to treat them as such. I don't give a damn what their insurance policy is because if they don't have insurance, you know what they probably do have? Money. And they called your office knowing they don't have insurance, so they were probably planning on paying you with money, which is also very good. Actually, I actually prefer that over insurance because I get it right now. I don't have to go to the insurance. They go, well, did you actually take that x-ray? We're going to deny this claim first, and then you can resend it to us. The patient doesn't do that and go, I don't think that you did what you said you did. so I'm not going to pay you. So the patients that don't have insurance are really, really great patients because you get your money right now. And then when you start telling them about the things that you're going to have to do during the appointment, it's like, I'd like to schedule a cleaning. How many times have you heard this? Well, before we can clean your teeth, we're going to have to take some x-rays, and the doctor's going to have to do an exam and make sure that your gums are healthy enough to get a prophy. What the hell's a prophy? Why would my gums not be healthy enough to get my teeth cleaned? I don't understand what you people are doing. I'll just call someone else. Answer the phone call. Let them know that you're happy to call, that you're happy to take their call, and you'd love to help them schedule an appointment that works really great for their schedule. Get their name, get their telephone number, and hang the F up. Greeting. So this is when they come into your office. Okay, so I have a really, really, really big issue with my team not standing up when people walk in my office. And I'm guessing that most of your offices do not have your receptionist or your front desk or whatever you could choose to call them stand up when a patient walks in. They sit at the desk many times like this. I'll be right with you. So if you have a really small, if your office is small and you've got one little hole for the patients to go talk to somebody, that's great. But somebody that's new to your office, they've never been down this path in your office. They don't know where to go. So what better way to let them know where they should head than with this beaconing smile from somebody saying, hello, welcome to our practice. Please don't say, do you have an appointment, to that patient that just walked in your office. No shit. What else would they be there for? I'm here to buy a car. I mean, of course they've got an appointment in your office. And if they don't, guess what we're going to give them? An appointment in your office. So stand up. Let them know that you want them there, like you would a guest in your own home. If you were having a party at your house, would you sit on the couch as the doorbell rang and say, yeah, come on in. Beers are in the fridge. No, you wouldn't do that because that's not polite. That's not how we treat our friends. That's not how we treat our guests. Yet we do that to our guests in our dental practice home all the time. We just sit down and kind of look at them awkwardly like, I don't know if you're supposed to be here. So stand up. That's the first thing. And then paperwork. We've talked about this a little bit. If your paperwork looks more like a Harry Potter novel than a couple of pieces of paper, you need to remedy that yesterday. Because I will tell you that is the most aggravating, frustrating, just mind-numbing thing that people have to do. I went to my ENT the other day, and I was there in December. I had a procedure done. And I was back for a post-op in January, and the lady shoves a clipboard, about 18 pieces of paper, and goes, I need you to fill this out. And I said, I filled it out in December. And she goes, well, it's a new year. I need you to fill it out again. It's like, well, I didn't change anything. Still 6 foot. My name's Justin Koch, and I'm here for a post-op. We got to make sure that your insurance hasn't changed. I'm a transaction now. I'm not really good when I go into offices. So the reality of it is, you make a verbal agreement with your patients on payment. You don't need to tell them what your financial policy is because you're going to talk to them about it personally when you do that. You do not need to have 7 sections where they put responsible party. I get it. It's the person that's in front of me or their parent. They're the responsible ones, I hope. I don't need 7 spots for them to put their insurance and their company and their group number and the policy ID and the address of the insurance company. That's all BS. Don't do that to your patients because then they're going to be in your waiting room drinking coffee for 45 minutes going, I don't know. I need to call somebody on this. So paperwork, fix it. Very little. Clean. I think that's self-explanatory. But it is amazing how dirty our offices can get in the matter of a few minutes. Alginate has got to be one of the most messy substances known to man. And when you're putting that stuff in a whipping bowl, and I don't know how it gets in the places it gets, but it ends up on the floors, the walls, everywhere. And you know what I see so often? I see this right here. So alginate or paper point or trash. And it's like, I didn't see it, so I don't have to touch it. You know what? I used to be a waiter when I was in college. Much like John was a cocktail waitress. I always was curious about John saying he was a cocktail waitress. I never really understood that one. He's always been a man as long as I've known him. So, but I was a waiter, when I was in college, and I was one of the leads, and one of my policies was you never bring an empty pitcher back to your bev station. Iced tea and ice water, you never bring an empty pitcher back. So what that means is you go to your tables first, you fill up your sections, iced tea and water, and on your way back, you help your friends out that are waiting tables with you, and you fill their tables iced tea and water up for them. And that way, everybody's always got a full drink. So I have that policy in our organization with debris on the floor. Every time you walk the hall, from front to back, pick something up off the floor and throw it away. And if every single person in your organization is picking one thing up every time they walk the hall, I'm not talking about if you get a whole tray of crap that you're taking back to sterilization. It's like, like this. I'm talking about if you got 2 free hands, pick something up off the ground, and your office will always be in good order. It'll be tip-top, just like that. Wait times, we talked about this. You've got to eliminate the wait times. Sometimes you can't help it once they get in the chair, but the worst place for a patient to be in your office is next to your coffee bar, because they do not want to be there. They want to be in your chair so they can get the hell out of your office because they don't want to be there anyway. When was the last time you heard a patient, new, existing, otherwise, go, you know what, I just love the dentist? What do? Actually? Tell you all the time? No offense, but please, I hate the dentist. So if they tell you that frequently and regularly, what makes you think they want to be there? So let's put more shit in there for them to enjoy. Cookies and all kinds of other nifty stuff. Let's get them out. They'll be a lot happier with that. So wait times. And then when you do have that situation where they're in your dental chair for an extended period of time, please don't let them be alone. Not because they're going to mess up your room or anything, but you need to reset that clock with them. If somebody walks into the room and starts talking to that patient, their clock just got reset. Their mental clock just got reset. But if they sit in a room, especially a room with no television or without anything, maybe an ugly color, and they're sitting there for like 3 minutes, it's like an eternity for them. They're getting like anxious. They're trying to get that bib off. Like, gotta get out of here. Feet on the floor. Somebody walks in there and has a small conversation with them. Hey, how you doing? Everything okay? Doctor's going to be right over. Don't worry about anything. He's going to take great care of you. You just reset their mental clock. So wait times in the lobby are the biggest thing that you need to eliminate. And then in the chair, you need to make sure that you're resetting their clock. Clinical introduction. This is when you're grabbing your patients. This is a huge pet peeve for me. This is medicine. They open the door. And they go, for Justin? It's like, no, it's just Justin. There's no for. Who started that? And why does everyone keep doing it? It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Why are we yelling for at them? It's like, unless you've got like 1,500 people in your lobby, I think you could probably pick out the next person that you're going to go grab. It's like, especially when there's one person in the lobby, like, for Judy? So how about you walk into the lobby, walk towards them, shake their hand, tell them your name, take them back. That's easy. And they also then know what they're supposed to do. I'm supposed to follow this young gentleman or this young lady so they can ask me if I'm going to take x-rays. Just kidding. And then communicate. So communicate is a very, very broad subject for me. So there's so much to it, and it seems in dentistry that we tend to be very poor at it, which is weird because we can talk to our friends and we can talk to our families and we can say all kinds of cool stuff and in a really great way, and then we talk to our patients like policy, cavity, filling. It's very just like this. And instead of having something that's better, that's easier for them to understand. For example, if a patient wants to schedule clinical dentistry after 5 o'clock, I don't recommend it. And I'll tell them that. I say, if you would like to schedule that after 5 o'clock, I'll be glad to do that for you. However, I just want you to understand what that's going to look like. You're here right now after 5 o'clock, and you can see that we're very busy, and the doctor is responsible for the care of every patient that's in this office. So if we schedule this after 5 o'clock, the doctor's going to have to be up and down and in and out of that room, and this procedure is going to take about 2 to 3 times as long as it should. But if you come in at 10 o'clock, the doctor will be right on time with you, and you're going to be in and out, lickety-split. Would you still like to schedule after 5 o'clock? And like, I don't want that. That sounds like an awful experience. So you set the expectation. Or I could say, when they go, I'd like to schedule my appointment after 5 o'clock, I say, well, it's our policy not to. So there. You know what you know the only appointment they want then? 5 o'clock. Because you told them they couldn't have it. Keep your policies to yourself. Trust transfer. Does everybody know what the trust transfer is? Apparently not. So the trust transfer is when one person in your team has created a bit of rapport with a patient, and they're about to hand that patient's care off to the next person in line. And you've built trust with this patient, and now you need to build trust with this patient with the next person that you're going to hand him off to, whether it be a hygiene assistant handing to a hygienist handing off to a doctor, or a doctor handing off to a treatment coordinator. It doesn't matter what it is. You let the patient know, I'm going to put you in the hands of this very capable hygienist. You're going to love her. She's going to take great care of you. That's a trust transfer. That's setting expectations for your patient that they're going to like that person. That makes it easy for the patient to want to be in your office and want to come back to your office because they trust everyone that they're working with. So it needs to be consistent. Everyone needs to do it. And we're guilty in our own organization of not doing it. I see it a lot, but we continually work towards the consistency of it with our patients. Then the exam. So this is really big, and I tend to see this with newer associate doctors than I do with more seasoned dentists, but I call it see it, say it exam. I see it and I say it, and then I wonder why you don't do it. So it's like 18 DO. Do you have any questions for me? Yes. Are you a dentist? Because I don't think so. You laugh because you've seen that. 18 DO. Do you have any questions for me? What is a DO? I do not understand. Get it? DO, do. Okay, so thought I'd get more laughs on that one. So they need to understand what a DO is, and if they don't do the DO, what's going to happen next? It's very important that we take care of this cavity that you have, that right now I can fix that with a tooth-colored filling. But if we wait, it's very likely that I'm probably going to have to do something a lot more expensive and extensive, like possibly a root canal, but definitely a crown. That's way better than you've got a DO. Do you have any questions? The patient understands now. I have a cavity. Do you know what they don't understand? The surface. Do you know how many Shits they give about that service? None. It's a cavity. It's a filling. Tooth colored. You set the precedent that you're doing tooth colored fillings, hopefully. And why it's so important that we fix it now instead of waiting. That makes it easy for a patient to make a decision on getting something that doesn't hurt done now. Instead of, let me think about it. Let me go talk to my spouse. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me go shopping and buy a new bag first. Treatment plan. Proceed with caution. We talk about this an awful lot, and that is big case delivery does not make it easy for a patient, especially a new one, to feel confident and comfortable and trust your organization. I always use the oil change example. So especially to the patient that comes in with no perceived needs, right? Which is most of our hygiene patients. 80% of the dentistry that most of you do in your organization comes out of your hygiene department, which is non-perceived need dentistry. It's preventative in nature. There's no pain yet. And so the treatment plan, I use this the oil change. So they come in for their free cleaning, right? The free cleaning. Say you got a $29.95 oil change coupon, and you go over to Jiffy Lube, and you're like, yes, I'd like to get the 5-quart $29.95 special. And they come back, and they're like, man, your oil was extra dirty, so we had to run it through this process. This is our perio, right? So we had to run it through this other process. We had to do this. And so where I know you were looking for a $29 oil change, this is going to be a $450 oil change. And then after I got to looking, the calipers on your brake, they're pretty much shot. And we need to do a head job on your engine. Your tires are bald. You need alignment, and it's going to be about $10,000. How's that sound? You're like, can I have my keys, please? That's what we do to our patients when they come in and you're like, oh, look at that mouth. Money. We just made them into a transaction. So remember this, when you're talking to a patient, especially a new one, you've got to get their permission before you can throw the kitchen sink at them. Otherwise, they're not going to like you very much. So you start off, and I'm not saying that you skirt the situation or you sweep it under the rug. I'm talking about financially planning this with them right now. You tell them, hey, look, there's an awful lot going on here. But it's okay, because you're here now, and we're going to work our way towards the end game. We're going to go on a journey together. But just like with any journey, it has to start somewhere. And what I'm seeing right now, this area of your mouth or this particular tooth or this XYZ is really the most concerning thing to me right now. And this is what I suggest that we start with on your journey. And then the patient that knows that they've been out for a long time or they've been saving up and they know, they'll go, no, doc, it's been a long time. Let's just talk about it. Just let me have it. They just gave you permission to throw the kitchen sink at them. Then you can go big with them because they let you in. If they didn't let you in, please don't do that because they will get out and they will not come back. And then the follow-through. We talked about this. Don't lie to your patients. Don't tell them you're going to do things that you're not going to do. Don't ever tell them you'll call them or somebody else will call them if you know that they're not going to or you think that somebody may call them. Follow-through is probably one of the number one deal killers with a patient. So it's kind of like painting your car. I don't know, has anyone seen a car painted? Especially like these restoration shows and stuff. They use about 10 coats of paint, and then they use about 20 coats, and maybe I'm exaggerating, of clear coat to get this beautiful, beautiful shine. So that's taking the patient from start to finish, just nailing everything. You've nailed the first phone call, you nailed the greeting, you nailed the clinical interaction with them, you nailed the treatment plan, and then you didn't call them back when they had a question about their bill or their EOB from the insurance company. That's like taking that brand new paint job and buffing it with a belt sander. It's not going to be a beautiful paint job any longer. You're not going to get that patient back because they forgot everything that you did so good because you just screwed up on this simple thing. And they're going to go somewhere else because that's aggravating because no one wants to tell their story more than once. So no cracks. Don't let stuff fall through the cracks. So, as we talk about easy, like I said, this ain't easy for us because there's a lot that goes into this. There's a lot that goes into easy. We have to sometimes feel like we're overstaffed significantly to make things easy for our patients, to allow them to come in when they want to come in. But I promise it pays off huge to do that. But easy is not rushed. It's not rushing patients through your practice. Easy is not poor quality. In fact, easy is best quality. It's best in class. Because you are able to do something that very, very few medical practices are able to do, and that is make a patient happy through the entire experience. So it is not poor quality. It's better quality from the dentistry to the experience. And you do not have to have a gazillion bells and whistles. Has everybody heard of the Ritz-Carlton experience? Okay, I've been to the Ritz-Carlton. It was an experience. It was a hotel. But they'd go to extreme lengths to make sure that the customer is happy, almost to the point of detrimental to their organization, because they literally live by the customer is always right at all costs, and they'll spend anything to do it. That's ridiculous to me, because you know what I did at the Ritz-Carlton? I spent about 5 times as much on a room as I normally would, and I didn't have any problems, like I normally don't have problems at a hotel. And so I wasn't extremely happy. I was like, well, this wasn't very affordable. This actually kind of hurts. So we don't need to have the Ritz-Carlton experience for our patients to love their experience in our organization. In fact, if you go to the Ritz-Carlton, it's because you want to be at the resort. You want to go to their hotel. They don't even want to be in our office. So why are we trying to be like the Ritz-Carlton? Don't do it. Do the basics and nail them. Shortcuts. Easy is not shortcuts. Shortcuts are, we're running behind, just this time we can let it slip. And then because slipping turns into the new norm. And then all of a sudden, you're just a half-ass organization doing cheap, poor quality work. So easy is not shortcuts. It's actually probably doing things different, but actually, like I said, it's a little bit more difficult to do it. It's not shortcuts. It's not unprepared. It's actually being almost what feels at times being overprepared for what's about to come at you. Because to be easy for your practice or for your patients, you've got to have availability. It's feeling a little vulnerable that your schedule is not packed to the hilt with patients everywhere. Because if your schedule is 100% appointed, how many people can you help that aren't currently in your practice or in that office that day? 0. So it's feeling a little bit vulnerable walking into your day going, whoo, I hope we can pay the bills. But it always works out. It's not being steamrolled by your patients, actually, either, because talking about this, you might think, just do whatever it takes to make it easy for your patients, but the reality of it is I talk about policies an awful lot, and policies are for us, not our patients, but the reality of it is our patients still have to follow our policies in order for us to make the experience for the whole better. Otherwise, it's just the Wild West. You know, if the patients are dictating everything, then you don't have a very well-oiled machine, and that's not easy for anybody. How many times have you made an exception for a patient, or you did something for a patient that you knew you probably shouldn't have done right then, and it screwed up the entire rest of your day? And it pissed off all the other patients behind that patient. It's happened to every single one of you in this room, I can guarantee it. But you cannot let your patients, so easy is not being steamrolled by your patients. It's being a better communicator about how your office runs and getting them to do what you want them to do in a way that was patient-centric, not policy-driven. And then it's not bargain basement. And I'm talking about money to your practice. In fact, having an easy practice is going to be a lot more profitable than having a roadblock practice, because you're going to see a lot more patients, your patients are going to be a lot happier, and you can realistically probably charge a premium for your access and your easiness. But it doesn't have to be expensive, but it doesn't have to be cheap either. Easy is not cheap. Easy is easy. And easy is what brings people back into your organization time and time again. If you went to McDonald's and had to wait in the drive-thru 15 minutes every time you went, how often would you go through the McDonald's drive-thru? I don't want people that go, well, I don't eat at McDonald's. I'm talking about McDonald's eaters. If you went through and had to wait 15 minutes in the McDonald's drive-thru, how often would you find yourself doing it? You wouldn't. You wouldn't go back because that's not convenient anymore, and that's why you went to McDonald's. Convenience. You come into the dental practice, you don't want to be there, you want to get out, and if you can do that for them, because we're pretty awesome that we have this thing of twice a year. And if twice a year is very cumbersome and very inconvenient, then it becomes once a year. Then it becomes once every 18 months. Then it becomes once every 24 months. And do you know how much revenue you lose every time the patient starts creating their own recall and they don't come back every 6 months? Or in fact, you were so inconvenient that they went somewhere else, which is usually what happens. Or they think that everyone's like you and they don't go anywhere. And then we run into I haven't been to the dentist in 8 years because they're all super inconvenient and don't make things easy for me. So this is just, I'm going to talk a little bit freely about this. This isn't anything specific, but we were looking through our organization. I was like, where is our biggest challenge? Because I think we do a lot of things really, really well at 7 to 7. But the one thing that I saw that we didn't do very well was the follow up and follow through. We were a bunch of liars. And it's due to 3M, those damn sticky notes. But we were liars. We were lying to our patients. We were telling them we were going to call them back. We were telling them we were going to do this. We were telling them we were going to do that. And we never did. Because the message got... Does anybody watch the Ellen DeGeneres Game of Games? Okay, the one where they put the ears on and then they repeat? They repeat the thing? And the answers you get on the other... That's basically what happens in our organization is we got this, like, our telephone as a kid. Remember that one? You play telephone, you just whisper the phrase, and by the time it gets there, it's not even close. That's kind of what's happening in our organization if the next person even says anything. It's like, they didn't say anything. And then it stops. It just dies. So I knew, because we've got 180 employees in our organization, and that's a lot of moving parts. That's a lot of divisions. That's a lot of areas. And our schedulers are the ones that answer our phone calls that come in. They don't always know where the best route for that phone call to go is, for the person that's going to be able to resolve that. So what we're trying right now is something that we're calling the patient concierge. And so what that is really is it's a single point of contact for anything that our schedulers cannot address when the patient calls in. And so if they don't know what to do with it, it immediately goes to our patient concierge. And this person, through a ticketing system, listens to the patient's story, and they document it in the system. And then they, based on their knowledge of our organization and the patient's issue, know exactly where to forward this message in the ticketing system, whether it's one person, two people. And then it's got very specific criteria on follow-up and follow-through. And then this person follows it through to the very end and confirms that the resolution was done to the patient's satisfaction. So this is something we're playing around with right now. More to come soon. I'll let you guys know how it goes. But basically, they identify the problem, they establish reasonable timeframes in resolution, they set reasonable expectations, establish immediate next steps with the patient, and follow it through to resolution. So I'm pretty excited about this because I think that's why we lose a lot of patients in my own organization. It's because we're liars right now. I don't want to be a liar. So, final thoughts. So, easy is all about training and empowerment of your team, right? It's about reframing the words that come out of your mouth and being more thoughtful about what you say before you say it. It does not require you to buy one single thing, but it can make a huge impact on your entire organization with just these little tweaks in your organization. And they're not easy, but they make it easy for your patients. And I promise when you make it easy for your patients, they're going to keep coming back and they're going to keep doing it over and over again. So these are some resources that we use in our organization, or some reading and Treatment 24/7. This helps us with follow-through with our patients. Treatment 24/7, go talk to Bobby Hansen. He's outside. You got to know about this product. Effortless Experience, please read it. Have your entire team read this book. It's very impactful. Exactly what to say. So Phil Jones, he wrote this book, and it's basically 30 phrases. It's a very short read. It's 30 phrases. I've got Cedric Lewis's team reading that, all of his treatment coordinators. My whole organization's read it. It's 30 phrases of what to say to a patient and what the impact is versus saying something in a little bit different way. And if you're anything like me, which is one of the phrases, if you're anything like me, you don't like to read. But what I really like is the information that's in that book. So I let other people do it for me. It's called Audible. And I listen to a lot of books every single year because of Audible. I've become way smarter because of Audible. Thank you, Audible, for that. This guy, Phil Jones, he's the narrator of this too. He's got this cool English accent. So you want to listen just to hear him talk. But the information is just invaluable. Get this book. And then the charisma myth. So basically the reason I've put this up there is because a lot of times the words that come out of our team members' mouths are they're detrimental to the practice because they feel like they don't like confrontation. So they use words that they think are docile or nice, but in fact, they're killers to the practice. So the charisma myth is that you don't have to be born charismatic. I did not come out of my mother's womb speaking on stage. I was not charismatic. And that's people say, well, I'm not like you, Justin. I can't say the things you say. That is not true. It can be taught. So that's what this book helps you understand, that charisma can be taught to anybody. And that is really where the reframing of your words are when you're talking to your patients. So these are some good resources. I hope this speech was helpful to you today. Thank you so much for listening. You've been a great audience. Thank you.
Justin, don't go anywhere.
Oh, okay.
So, unfortunately, Brent Simon was unable to make it from the East Coast. So
all right, another hour with Justin.
So he's not going to be joining us. A couple things. Please be sure to sign up for your CE credits out by the registration desk after the conference today and get a Chrisad t-shirt. We'll be passing around the sign-up sheet tomorrow as well. But I did want to leave it open right now for some questions, since Justin is here, or any questions for the other speakers today, since we have some time. So.
It doesn't just have to be about easy. It can be about anything.
About anything.
All right.
Except how to do a faster root canal.
Right here.
I don't know.
Hey, Justin, this is something that I find truly annoying. How many doctors in here actually use tooth numbers with their patients?
No. How many doctors in here use tooth numbers with their patients?
None of them.
No, I mean when you're conversing with the patient,
Yes.
you use tooth numbers. How did you get around it? I have an associate, can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
He cannot stop. He uses 18 for molar. He uses 12 for a premolar. This tooth is now number 8, and they have no idea what they're saying.
Sure.
How do you get over that?
So it's not about tell it once and hope it sticks. Anything that you do, any type of training, any type of redirection, any type of reframing with anything is going to take constant conversation. It's going to take, like with my treatment coordinators, we do monthly sales training. And I tell them the same things over and over and over. And we teach and we preach and we do role playing over and over and over and over and over again. And I still hear them say stuff that makes me cringe, but that's why we keep doing it every single month. So if you've got a doctor that's doing that and it drives you crazy, work with that doctor. Continue to work with that doctor. Help them with tweaking their conversation, with changing it from 18 to molar or a back tooth or something like that a patient is going to be, it's more patient-centric, right? So it's not about, hey, do this, dummy. It's because it's just about changing a habit. And habits are very hard to break once you've got that habit. So to reform a new habit takes quite a bit of time of doing something new. So just remember that. Just keep working with them, and eventually I think you'll probably see a pretty significant change.
Hey, Justin,
Yes.
somebody asked if you could walk through treatment plan, how you're attacking it.
Can you be more specific with that? I could go all day on that topic.
I know, it's dangerous. I guess just walk through how you plan to communicate with the patient.
Okay, so for the doctor or the treatment coordinator or kind of everyone? So we'll just start from the beginning. So when you go into an exam, I highly recommend that you not take a dental assistant with you into your exam. I highly recommend that you have treatment coordinators. And a treatment coordinator is not the least busy person in the office. A treatment coordinator is a designated individual that helps you get the dentistry sold and in your chair. So when you go into an exam, have your treatment coordinator with you, because your treatment coordinator should be they should be your most charismatic individual, the ones that aren't afraid to talk about money, kind of say it how it is, but nice. It's not rude. And then I think it's very important to introduce yourself to the patient in a seated position, the patient in a seated position, not a lying position. So if you're walking into a hygienist's room where they're cleaning the teeth, that trust transfer should happen while the hygienist is sitting the patient up. And then you introduce yourself and then sit the patient back down. Ask them, is it okay if I sit you down so we can do an oral evaluation of, I've already looked at your x-rays, but I want to see inside the mouth. Make sure everything's kind of the same. And then you go through that. And I do recommend, because to chart, your treatment coordinator will need to know teeth numbers. You can't just say molar, because they're just taking a stab in the dark. Like, this tooth needs a crown, maybe? So you do need to use tooth numbers when you're doing that. But what I like to tell the patients is, you're going to hear me call out a bunch of numbers and letters and some other things. Don't worry about any of that. We're just taking some notes for your chart. When we're all finished, I'll sit you up and I'll talk to you about anything and everything that I found. So they understand that they're going to hear a little bit of alphabet soup going on. And so then when you're done, I see this a lot where the doctors are going through and they are doing the explanation of what needs to be done on each tooth as the patient's laying down. And I don't think that's very effective. I think you just diagnose, get it in the patient's chart, sit the patient up, and then have your conversation knee to knee, eye to eye with the patient. This is a personal thing that you're doing with them. You're about to tell them that they've got a wrecked mouth or a good mouth, and you're going to have to give me some money. That's a tough conversation to have with somebody in the lying down position. Sit them up. Talk to them like a person. Be non-vernacular with your conversation with patients. I love it. Molar, back tooth. We are in a military town, so we get a lot of metal fillings. I find that doctors love to call those things silver. I don't think they have any silver in them, or they have very little silver. The mercury, alloys, this is metal. So just call it what it is. Don't bring any value to that thing. Call it a metal filling. And I don't like the word leaking, because to me, I think of a leaking tire, something's escaping, and you say, oh, this silver filling's leaking. It's like, that's kind of spooky, but I don't know what that means. So you got this metal filling, looks like it's been in there for an awful long time, and it's done a great job. It's not doing its job anymore. We need to take it out, and we need to put a crown on that tooth so that you can have years of use out of it. If we don't do that, we're probably going to have to do a root canal, possibly even extract that tooth, because what happens when we don't remove these old metal fillings that aren't doing their job is they tend to cause your tooth to crack, and they don't crack in the positions that are fixable. Then we're talking about removing that tooth and talking about replacement, which is a lot more extensive, a lot more expensive. So that's where we want to start. It's right there on that back tooth. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. She told me that I'm magical. For those of you that did not hear. I'm sorry? Tinkerbell.
But how do you make a provider say all this when you're just the office manager or an assistant? This is amazing what you're saying, but how do we teach others to say what you're saying?
So the number one thing that you need to remember when you're talking with doctors, because I am not a doctor either, and it doesn't matter if you are or you are not. Doctors don't want to be talked at. They want to be communicated with. So if you can help them understand that maybe the things that they're saying are not resonating with the patient because we're not able to get this dentistry into your chair, maybe we could work on some different techniques on just tweaking little things here and there, and we'll start with something small and see how it works. Right? So I've never met a doctor that you say, hey, that's just awful. Don't do it that way. They'll be like, oh yeah, well sure, then give me the road, show me the way. That's never happened with any doctor I've ever worked with. They don't want to be talked at, but they do want to be better. Every doctor I've ever worked with wants to be better if there's a possibility to be. And if you communicate with them that way, you'll probably find, much like your patients, they're going to be a lot more open to it.
Got another one?
Okay. And don't ever just call you just an office manager. Don't ever say that.
It seems like to me that it's hard to deal with the associates because they work in so many different practices. And so you have your way, but they're in 2 other practices at the same time. So that's what's tough. It's tough on me to deal with. The training part of that.
Certainly. So we rarely have dentists that work elsewhere. That's just kind of a rule of thumb for me. I like my doctors to be dedicated to us. We provide an awful lot for our doctors, and I want to be their main squeeze, So we don't tend to have doctors working at multiple practices. In fact, in our contract, we've got a non-moonlighting clause in there, so they can't even do it. That helps, but that's not always possible, especially if you're just trying to get a day covered or something like that. But like with anything, if you can help them get to a point where they can see that what you're talking to them about is a lot more successful than what they're doing elsewhere, they'll probably actually take that to the other practices as well. And so you'll win out in that one because then they start using it as a habit at all the practices. All you have to do is show them how it's better. But you got to have proof behind it. You got to have data to support it. Does that help at all?
Yep.
No?
Justin.
Yes.
Back right. Yes.
Hi there. Again, it is me. I had a joke first. Is that okay?
Yes.
Everyone kept asking me to say one more. What is the favorite time of the day for the dentist?
2:30.
Good job. Yes, 2:30.
2:30.
All right. Anyhow, with regards to the training of the staff and associates for verbiage and things we'd like for them to learn and help with the practices, production, and patient care. It's not just a set time or amount of times that we need to do it. It's continuous manuals, continuous morning huddles, afternoon huddles, nice motivational sessions you could have with your team. Show them the value in what you're speaking about. Show them the value as to why it is important for them to discuss treatment with the patient. Educate.
That's exactly right. I mean, the education of your team should never stop. It should never stop. You should be educating your team. You should be working with your team. You should be talking with them constantly. If you want it to be done a particular way, show them how to do it. You can't tell them, you got to show them first of all, and if you can't do it, please don't expect them to do it. So show them how to do it first, and then just keep working with them. The quickest way to get them to not do what you want is to get mad at them when they don't do what you're showing them. You gotta work with them because the reality of it is I talk to a lot of folks, and I feel this way sometimes, but it's, you sit there and it's like, why can't they figure this out? If everyone could do it, we wouldn't be special at all. So we've got to help others be able to figure out how to do things that we may be better at. And we've got to be patient with them. We've got to keep working with them. And you're exactly right. It's a constant, ongoing process. It never stops. Because the second you stop, everything just goes back to the way the other person wanted it to be. Scripts are very good. So if you don't have scripts for almost any situation, I highly recommend that you write scripts. And I'm not talking about that people are sitting there going, yes, Mrs. Jones, what we would like to do today is not talking about that. What I'm talking about is the proper way to communicate something to a patient and have resources for them to look at, to reference. And I always say with scripts, say it 1,000 times and say it 1,000 more times. Do it in front of a mirror until you can say it without laughing. Because you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, you start laughing. But it's not funny. But it isn't funny because this is serious business. The words that come out of our mouth can kill or explode our pride. I mean, they can literally make us or break us. And so these words are unbelievably important. And if you don't have scripts for your team to reference, please don't expect them to know what to say. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that was the hand part. I got that. I'm just teasing.
I love your formula. I just joined Chrisad. It's been awesome. But I have a question. If you have, you want the evenings and you want the Saturdays, and you want Saturdays to just be hygiene and then the doctors to do exam. Let's just say, you have several associates in your practice and the one that is willing to take their Saturday will not, they don't work the 9 to 5.
So,
do you think it's ethically to have the other doctors that are being conveniently, their hours are their 9 to 5 to see the patients? How do you?
So are you talking about for the restorative?
Yes.
Oh, no, absolutely not. If a doctor finds it, they communicate it to the patient says, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, let's get that done, that doctor needs to do it. So in that scenario, I'm in the same boat because we're in the same boat. We're completely associate driven. And associates don't want to come to work exclusively to do exams because they don't see the value in hygiene exams yet, right? So if they only work on Saturday, then what I would recommend that you do is you increase the time of the clinical appointments so that they're not back to back to back. You increase the time of the clinical appointment and make sure that you have enough doctors that if one's buried in a procedure, that another one can go do an exam. So I'm with you. I mean, we can't just shut it down because our associates won't have it. If they're going to work on Saturday and Sunday, they want to do dentistry. And that's fair. I understand that. I'm with them on that. So you've just got to make sure that you set your schedule up for success if you're going to do that. And it's by over-scheduling the clinical appointments.
Justin, right here.
So Justin, what are the things you would recommend for team retention or staff retention that's being...
Handcuffs. No,
what else?
So I will tell you one of the things that we did about a year and a half, 2 years ago, that has been probably the absolute best thing that happened for our retention was we structured tier systems for all of our different departments, especially it started with the clinical assistants. And the reason that we did that is because, first of all, I didn't want the squeaky wheels to be the only ones that ever got a raise. And the tier system, basically what it does is it's 5 different tiers, and it's from beginning to mastery, right? And each section of this tier system has got to have, there's different things that you need to master to get to the next tier. Each tier has got a very specific dollar amount that you make, your hourly wage. So they know exactly what they need to do to get a raise. And they master these things, and we'll help them with the education and the training and all that kind of stuff, but some of it's going to be done on their own. But we'll help them get there. But basically, when they start with our company, we give them a roadmap how to make more money without it being without it being hedged on a bonus or something like that. Don't get me wrong, we still have bonuses in there, but they want real, definitive, I can pay my bills money, not pie in the sky bonus money, right? And they want that security. But security is not just about making money and having a job long term. It's about how can I make more money, or how can I move up, or how can I do this in the organization. And we've done that by giving them a roadmap. And they didn't really understand it at first. They thought it was a little bit limiting until they understood that they didn't ever have to ask for a raise. Every single year, we do an assessment of them. And then our RDA training specialist, along with the office lead, they do the assessment of them, and they determine what tier they're at based on their mastery. And someone might jump from a tier 1 to a tier 3 and get a $5 or $6 raise, just like that. And so that's the one thing, really. I mean, there's a lot that you can do, but the thing that really, really, really worked for us was that. And we have very little assistant turnover. We have almost no hygienist turnover, but we pay our hygienist $10 an hour and $25 a patient. And our hygienists make more than just about anyone that they know in their same field. But they work assisted. They work like a provider. They work assisted, and they see typically 2 patients an hour. But that right there, the tier system has been very, very beneficial to us.
All right.
Cool. Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Justin.
Yes. Oh, thank y'all.